Rise and smile, everybody. This is our conspiracy breathing today. We took a hit, and the one that makes you cough is the one that gets you off. So I think we're ready to start. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, let's get it. So let's get back to it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Andrew Conspiracy. We have myself, Mr. Andrew, and my lovely co-host next to me here, Mr. Do, and we are here to conspire with you all. And we just decided to start conspiring through laughter because what better way is there to breathe than through laughter? So I don't know if you found that funny, if it caused you to chuckle. Hopefully it did. But if it didn't, I highly suggest just start laughing. Just start ha ha ha. I mean, we've seen it on the internet, right? It's like there's a contagiousness to it, and to really feel into that joy in your body.
And as for the cough and to the laugh, that's what I was famous for. That's basically what the Mucks tried to beat out of me for 50 years, but it's back, and I just want to say the one that when I was at Dartmouth, we had this alumnus who would come up from New York with the best marijuana with the best cannabis from. Sorry about marijuana. For the best cannabis that they had in New York City, and he and our group would like sit around and smoke his pot. And he once said, "I've never seen anybody who coughs as much as Dale, but then again, I've never seen anybody who can smoke as much as Dale." So that's I sort of take pride in that, and Andrew has been finding out that in the pot smoking marathon, sometimes you got to take a break, but I don't.
Indeed. I definitely am not attempting to keep up with you in any way, shape, or form, but I do enjoy partaking with you when I am in.
I just want to point out the obvious that we're still in the duck nest, and Andrew and I are still together, and he's determined to get my duck nest into high vibration awareness state, and I appreciate that because I've been here for 44 years, and it's just become like too overwhelming to me to try to like figure out how to get this place in the shape that I wanted to be in, and therefore, Andrew, thank you very much for your dedication not only to the apartment but also to me and for raising my vibration.
Well, you're welcome. I went on a little side quest over the last few days. I got back yesterday to an address in Brooklyn that just happened to be 420. So I was staying at 420 in Brooklyn and got to spend some time with my lovely friend Miss Ellen, who I met at a retreat earlier this year. And it was fun to be in like a real feminine essence and experience that. I told Dale I literally was in an apartment with two beautiful girls dancing the night before, and I chose on purpose. I could have stayed longer to come back to the duck nest and spend time with this guy. But there's reasons. but I never thought I would say those words with my mouth. But here we are.
I mean, choosing like two prime. Choosing me, an 70-year-old old guy who's been diagnosed with psychosis for 50 years, over two beautiful, booty-shaking, dancing girls.
I didn't say all that, but they did have nice booties. That's facts.
Right.
So.
And we don't want to insult them, but
No.
I don't think saying that they have a nice booty is an insult to a true feminine.
They're beautiful on many levels, including that one. So, but anyway, it was nice to connect and just have a little shake and pace, and it gave us just a little bit of space to kind of integrate this first meeting, and I think that was helpful also. And I got to experience New York City a little bit more, and kind of people watch is kind of what I ended up doing, just observing how people exist in different spaces and different energies and different ways, and went on lots of walks with Willow, and then Ellen was like practically nocturnal. Like she's definitely in a feminine flow. I think she was getting up around, I don't know, 1 to 3 in the afternoon. That was the range. And so I had plenty of time to kind of do what I wanted to do as far as in the city, and then we would connect and chat and do all that. So it was a good time, but I think I was craving that ability to be present. She had like work to do, like job, what's that all about, right? And we don't. We do this. And that is our present reality. And so, yeah, I was craving that presence. I really was. The ability to be present is such a powerful gift that we can give to others. And once you've had it, anything less is just a little it's a little tough to like swallow or something, right? It just doesn't hit quite the same. And so here we are, present again, and in time to be able to record another episode live together. And so it all worked out. It all flowed perfectly, and here we are.
And I just want to say that, so what's your biggest revelation about the palatial state so far, Andrew? This is something we're going to talk about today, is being in the prison cell of your mind, as opposed to the freedom of your spirit. And and for many years I considered this apartment a prison. It is basically, I felt I'd been sentenced to 25 to life in Hackensack for the vicious murder of God or reality back in 1975, and so basically I accepted it as a prison term, but also in the course of 50 years I've turned this Hackensack Daily Annex into a palatial estate that I can forever be at peace with. And even if I move out of Teaneck, Hackensack City, I have THC, the herb, to keep me in touch. And that's another thing that I wanted to talk about, is about THC, and living in THC on THC is a big difference than just living in THC.
There you go. All right. So there was a lot there. I think I heard 3 things. One is this idea of freedom versus these prisons we build for ourselves, and then of course the other is like creation and our experience here on the palatial estate, right? And you're right. I mean, all that felt very true. That has been my experience as well. I see the palatial estate as you do. I mean, it is. We go on this beautiful loop with Willow Dog, and there's grass to walk on and trees. We're in fall mode here, and beautiful water to look over, and a clean, beautiful path to walk along, and a lovely energy to feel. So no, your creation is that, absolutely. But then also the apartment is that, right? It did feel like you had, this was part of your prison or something. And so the cleaning, I think, has been that's a part of it. And then another part is just the general energy, and I feel that rising all the time. Like that's, so we're there. I mean, I think this is becoming the duck nest in real time, and happy to be a part of that process. And yeah, I don't know. My key takeaway is we do create our. I mean, the way he looks at life is how it is, and and in showing it to me, I'm allowed to see it through that lens also, right? To see, oh wow, this is something he has access to right across the street. Short. It's like you're transported from one dimension to another almost, and I think that's a really cool way to perceive our reality. When you go for a walk outside your house, what value do you assign to it? Is that your creation, or is it just the sidewalk in front of your house? Do you have a vision for something beautiful, or is it just like mundane, ordinary, kind of fades into the background? I mean,
and another thing is that does your reality change every time you turn a corner into a new perception?
yeah.
And that's really what the essence of Dale to Dale is. In our walk, there's a park, there's a promenade through. Basically, is like an industrial park, but it's a beautiful promenade with the Hackensack River next to it and everything. And then you cross the bridge to Fairleigh Dickinson, and I'm really proud to be a graduate of Fairleigh Dickinson at this point. It's really become a major university, and I feel that I helped build it into that. Not only 5 years as an undergraduate, but 10 years as the spirit of the campus. And but then, so we go through Fairleigh Dickinson.
I want to say one thing.
Okay.
It is also noteworthy that the people that we do experience, to the extent there are people hanging out, have always been really friendly, or we walked through with the dog and there's how cute the dog was, right? And so it's been a positive experience from that perspective too. Just the people seem like they're in a good headspace.
Well, that's really the basis of what we're getting down to, is the creation of your own reality, and how you can see how successful your reality is being created by looking at your external circumstances. And therefore, I meant things like you never expect just happen, because that's what your reality is reflecting. I meant a Lamborghini, like yellow Lamborghini, like drove through Hackensack and like was at the stoplight in front of my apartment, and as I walked out, and it's like, wow, that's a nice car, but not only did it say, wow, is that a nice car, but that's now part of my reality, and this Lamborghini is something that I could put into my reality because it's already there. And so basically, this is something that, a lot of people push back on, but, my sister and I were talking, and she says, well, millions of people are having their Medicaid taken away. So first off, I know a lot more people on Medicaid and food stamps than she does. And the only story I've heard so far is that someone lost $60 in food stamps. And plus, but the point is that if you focus on your very immediate reality, you can see what type of environment you're existing in. So if you walk outside and you don't like the people that you see, or you think they're creepy, or even neutral, then you're creating that. And it's up to you to change your perception. And Andrew had like a very deep perception that I think sort of like went over everybody's head about how eyes are projections of what the brain sees. You aren't seeing what is out there, you're seeing what the brain projects. And that's therefore, if you can exist in a concrete reality where you can judge people by what you see, then you're going to be able to improve your reality.
Yes. Yes. I mean, we can illustrate this in any number of ways. I think one that comes to mind is if you buy a certain car or thinking about buying a certain car, or you're researching it and you're out driving, you'll automatically notice more of that car. Your eye will be drawn to it because you're looking for it.
Right.
And so what you look for is what you see. And why wouldn't you look for beautiful things? Like the beautiful women, for example, the beautiful homes that were lining the streets of Brooklyn that I was in. I mean, these standalone mansions, basically. And, appreciating them for the beauty that they hold, and also understanding that maybe that's not something I necessarily am drawn towards, but that it exists, and so here we are. We're seeing what we're looking for.
But just about the mansion, also realizing it's not out of your reach.
Well, that's the point. It's like my mansion's on the beach, though, bro. It's not.
Well, no,
it's not in fucking New York City,
well, my
crowded
mansion,
with a bunch of honking and noise and sirens.
Right.
It doesn't include all that shit. You understand?
Right. Well,
it's not about. It's not attainable.
Well, my mansion's on the big island of Hawaii.
Okay, we have a similar vision. So.
But I'm just saying, even though you might not want that mansion in Queens, you have to Brooklyn.
You want me to be in Queens every time? I don't know
why. Because that's what you told me first.
I might have said that.
But anyway, so you see these mansions in Brooklyn, and they might not be what you want, but what you have to understand is it's within your potential to own anything that you set your mind to.
Well, like you said, it's in my reality, so therefore it can come in.
Right.
Can come in, and yeah, I think that's a good way to look at things too, for sure. And the other thing you said yesterday, if you're seeing a bunch of uggos,
right,
then consider why that might be.
Right. But and this gets into what we wanted to talk about, which is freedom, and freedom versus freedom, and
I wanted to mention that story about Ellen and her father.
Oh,
right?
okay.
She I'm not going to get into details, but basically, she had a time to spend some time with her father, and I think he was explaining to her like his situation in life. He was explaining, this is life for me now. And it was like limitation. I can't do this because this, right? And it starts to stack up, like all the reasons why he can't. And you see what I'm doing right now? Like piling up the reasons why it is the way it is, why
building
I can't.
a castle of impossibility around yourself.
And it literally becomes a prison cell.
Right.
And I felt the weight of that when she was explaining to me, like he mentally, none of it's real, like he can leave a house at any time. You can just open the door and walk the fuck out, right? Like that is possible. But when you create the mental prison, now, no, I cannot leave this home. I have to do this. I have to do that. I don't have enough money to do this. You start, so that's the thing. The prisons we create by can't, or it's not possible, or limitation, these things we just express as though they're true, when they're not, when they're inherently untrue. And to really bring that thought warrior mindset to those loops that play out that say I can't, because.
Well, I think it's very important. This is primary to it is realizing there's always a choice whether you think there is or not. And I basically been in a mindset for 50 years, which was reinforced by 5 years in the psychiatric programming, that I needed help, and I was a schizophrenic, and basically there was like little I could do about it except, do the best I could. So that was my prison, and I built my prison, and for a long time it was a prison, but then I realized I had a choice of choosing whether I'm going to celebrate my life or be a prisoner or a condemned person in my life. And that's really where things started changing. But it was, there were like traumatic events like the death of Dale, which really like pushed me into like this this sphere where I realized more and more I had a choice. And I think that's I think that's very important for people to understand and to get out of their prison is to realize they do have a choice. And I think a lot of people are not necessarily scared of that choice, but just sort of like
No, they are.
They're scared, but they also dismiss the possibility of choice.
Well, that's why they dismiss the possibility of choice, because it feels unsafe to do so.
Right.
Safety is the root, I feel like, of all of this. And so we create safety through familiarity. And that's part of the prison is like, well, if I'm limited to this space, now my choices are I don't have to think about all these things, right? It brings my world down to something that is simple or
Right.
feels familiar, it loops in a way that I know I can survive. How about that? I know if I do this, I will survive. And that is a perspective you can hold, but that's the perspective of prison. It's what I can do to survive. Because that means you're on this planet to survive. And fuck that shit.
Right.
We're not here to survive. I'm quite confident about that.
We're here to thrive and be alive.
Yeah, and so that's where the freedom comes in, is when you can make that shift from survival mode to creator mode and realize, oh shit, this is my palatial estate. I have created something beautiful. I get to enjoy it every day, or whenever I choose to go out and to enjoy it, and then let that feed to create a new loop of creator instead of a loop of victim.
Well, to tell you the truth, I've been very jealous. I think subconsciously I've been very jealous of like my boarding school roommates, who basically have gone. The boarding school was very exclusive. It was like very high class, and basically it was educational institution for the upper class of America. And I figured out that I've been jealous about them because here I am sitting in an apartment I rented for 44 years without a wife, without kids and everything. And then the switch came and said, but look at what God is going to give me for all the things that I haven't had. And all the things that I haven't had that I'm jealous that my classmates have done, they're on the last leg of their journey, whereas actually I've just begun my journey into my true self and my true realization of potential.
Yeah, there you go.
And I don't need, at this point, I don't need 3 houses, 3 mansions, and 2 swimming pools, and 4 kids, and 7 grandchildren to feel worthy and to justify myself. Because not only do I feel that's going to happen in the future, but I also feel that if I hadn't done everything I had for the last 70 years, then my life mission of building my spaceship, the Dialina, which is my body, would not have been accomplished. And therefore my life would have been just like irrelevant, and I would have been a delusional psychotic.
Yeah, we're still on the fence about all that, but but no, that's a story, and it's valid as any other story, and it certainly sounds like a much more empowered story than the one you were telling, and so that's the point, is to like think about the story you're telling, and is it an empowered creator story or is it a victim story, and why? We talked about it, I think, at the retreat. We were telling stories, and then we asked, are we telling the story from the victim, from the scar?
Wound or scar, right?
Right. And so wound is, you're still in it, you're still kind of processing it, or you're still holding on to it, whatever. And then, the scar is, there's been healing and overcoming and a new perspective on, how it led to the next thing in your life or whatever it is. And there's a difference in the energy of that story. You feel it in your body when they're telling it, and you hear it in the tone and all that. And so when you tell your life story, what perspective are you telling it from?
Well, I meant the thing about a scar is it can be unsightly, but it's healed, whereas a wound can be hidden, but still be festering.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know, the scars, it's part of the journey, I think, a little
Well, a
bit.
scar is a badge of honor.
Can be, yeah, can be. And the overcoming it does feel like a part of the experience. I don't, maybe it's not true for some people. I wouldn't put that experience on anyone, but overcoming, some of the adversity in my life definitely at least gave me space and an opportunity to put more attention on what it is I'm doing, right? Like, to sit with it and be like, oh, well, that didn't feel like it went well. Well,
Right.
How can we adapt to have a different experience?
Right.
And so you start asking the question, and then things happen, But if you never have that thing that kind of you run up against, I don't know. It feels like it just doesn't happen then, or something.
Ever since I got taken away from Dartmouth, from the moment I got taken away from Dartmouth, I talked about biogenetic predestination and basically how everything had led up to me, Roger Joseph Dale Edward Walsh, and how that was the fulcrum and everything. But the point is that everything that I've gone through is what I created for myself, no matter how much I disliked it or resisted it. And that, despite going through that, despite the resistance, despite the anger, despite the rage, even at times, and how I was being treated, was essential for the peace, harmony, and message that I now have, that I know needs to be conveyed, and I can convey it from a position of strength because I've overcome. God has liberated Source, Gus, God, Universe, Source has liberated me from that need to explain to people myself and just speak what I am, just speak my truth.
No, I mean, to me, that's what it's about. It's literally what this is about, because it's just it's flipping everything. I mean, that's radical responsibility, is what I heard, because radical responsibility allows you to be the creator of it, even if it seems like, why would the fuck would I create that? Being the creator of it is a more empowered position than being the victim of it. Does that make? I mean, that's
right.
That's where I'm at, and so. It might sound like delusion until you've done it. Try it. Be the creator if you haven't yet, and see what it feels like. When I walked, I was kind of pouting to Dale when I was in New York, because I'm like, Ellen doesn't have as much time to hang out with me as I'd hope. I think I might come home, but I'm like, wait a second. I'm the creator.
Right.
Why am I sitting here pouting? It's so ridiculous. And so, yeah, I decided, I had a couple puffs. It was around 4:20 in the afternoon. I'm like, we're going to go out for a little walk and we'll see what happens, right? And I smoked a little bit of Ellen, which I thought was appropriate. And then I started channeling my inner Ellen. And basically, I walked around, this part of Brooklyn and was just observing things and then thinking about what the story is behind this thing I'm observing. And then deciding that's a photograph because now there's a story of why this image, was captured. And it was a cool experience. I took probably like 5 or 6 photos and also just appreciated where I was this little bit more and felt like the creator of it instead of a victim of it wasn't what my expectation,
Right.
And so just to let go of that and switch and then walk out. Yeah, I literally walked out that. I walked out that door, right, and realized I'm in a whole new Dale here. Right. This is a whole new Dale, and it can be whatever I want it to be, and felt the energy of that. And there is an energy in a space that has a lot of people. It can feel a little tingly at times. It also can feel like overwhelming. It's like anything in too high of a dose can start to feel like a little bit much.
Right.
And so I enjoyed it for what it was, and then felt like mission was accomplished, and came back to the duck nest.
Well, I just what I'm going to say is, as an author, as a novelist, I wrote 6 novels before I turned to poetry in graduation in 1985. So basically, as a novelist, everything is a story, and if you can see yourself as a writer and the author of your own life, then you can write in any twists and turns you want to.
Right.
And
and part of it is also being open to the unfolding. Like that's the surrender we're talking about, right? Is surrender to receiving God's energy, God's love, and in any way that's possible. And the way we receive God's love is through our experiences of love, right? In the world, in our lives, in our hearts. And so to me, that's a big part of it too, is like not having so much rigidity about how it happens, but just knowing it's coming. How about that? Does that feel right?
Absolutely, and this is something that I've been meaning to pull out on the show for basically since the beginning. But I know people know Kevin Trudeau. A lot of people say he's a huckster, but he has made a lot of people very wealthy. And basically, his story is he was in the highest of the secret societies, and he basically got out and started revealing all their secrets and everything. But his motto is, "Your wish is your command." And what I wanted to bring to light about what he says is, he says basically everybody is looking through a 3-inch radar screen at their reality. That's what their reality is. But actually, the radar screen is just a reflection of the 100-foot movie screen of what the universe is actually doing. So if you focus on the 3 inches, then you're going to miss all the other opportunities that the universe is offering you. And I've been thinking about how to make money and everything. And what happens 2 days ago? I get a letter from Social Security. I've been on I started in 1986 on disability at $250 a month, which is nothing. At that point it was cigarette money basically. And my highest payment ever was last month, which was $330. So what happens? And this is what I'm talking about, the radar screen. I had no idea, the money was coming in. But long story short, I got a notice that my benefits had been increased from $330 to $880 a month, and I had nothing, and that was God. That was my co-creating with God, but also with the encouragement of Andy, of Andrew. We were talking about, all I really needed to break through to abundance is someone who Andrew has made this, has volunteered. But if I'm very good at budgeting, but sometimes at the end of the month I'm short.
You gotta like tell the whole story. It's hilarious. Keep going. Yeah.
Well, you can tell the whole story.
No, he's hit me up because he came a little short.
So basically, Andrew for the last 2 months has gotten me through the end of the month, and now this comes through from Social Security, but I think that's just like the first leak of the flood dam of abundance that the Lord is about to give me. But the point is that if it's having that security of Andrew, knowing that I have backup in case I'm short, that I never had before, is giving me the ability and the confidence to embrace the abundance mindset.
Yeah, excellent. No, I'm grateful that my small contribution to your life has allowed that little bit of freedom, right? That little bit of like space to breathe and safety. Really, that's what we're talking about, isn't it? So safety. I mean, we keep coming back to that word because resourcing safety, whatever the story is, right? He has a new story to tell. Like, I know worst case scenario, there's something I can reach out and grab, and it's consistent, it's constant, it makes me feel safe, and that expands now my capacity to receive. Like it's a spiral out, right? A spiral up, that's created through, what I consider to be, obviously something I'm more than willing to help with, right. and so, but also knowing that it is his thing to build, right? And so not trying, it's like don't feed the wildlife is like kind of, but that just comes with boundaries to me, right? It's it's clear communication between us about what the expectation is, and then meeting that expectation creates trust, and that's what we've done, and so we have trust that it all works, and it does, and it's the more of that is starting to come into my life in different angles, and so the ability to create safety for people or give them permission to feel safe, I guess, is kind of what it is.
Right.
Because a lot of things in life are permission slips, to have an experience. And so it is like safety is such a cool thing to be able to resource to feel, because I feel so safe in my existence, in my universe that I've created. And then now to be able to show other people like what a safe universe feels like, I think just help people start to feel it for themselves and then create it for themselves, because that's the only way it works, if you can create it for yourself, right? And so I've been leaning more into that and receiving that reflection back, and that feels really good. So it's like it's a way that I love people now. It's like, where do you feel unsafe in your existence, or how can I help? And usually,
Well, of course, the ground chakra that is the first chakra, and that's all security and safety and everything, and that's like the first chakra that's developed. So, as a baby, the primordial need is for safety, is for food, is for like loving, caring, and everything.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And that's the first of the 7, chakras. And I think a lot of people sort of ignore the first chakra, just because not only do they realize how important it is to their own well-being, but also because working on it can cause insecurity.
Mm. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I was thinking about that conversation we had about mirror neurons in Gabby's group that one day, and how much now I've learned about how that mirror. So mirror neurons are something that you use to receive information from your environment. Basically, it's and as a child, you're very open to receiving information because, like you said, you survival is like essential, and so knowing that you're safe is resourcing safety is a huge part of that piece of life. And so the eyes that are looking for safety, they're looking for signals of safety that are being sent by the parents, the guardians, the environment, all the things that the child is experiencing. And you're very open and sensitive, I think, at that age to those. And so those of us who've maybe had a less stable childhood or had parents that couldn't resource safety, or were not as available for us, have like a wound there that needs to feel it, right? To have an example of what it is. And so, I mean, that's kind of what I feel is an opportunity, that's what it seems like it comes from my experience.
I had a very deep fear of abandonment. I don't know whether it's because of my mother's divorces or whether there were other things that contributed to it, but for basically until about a year and a half ago, if people like left me standing for like more than 5 minutes, I'd start getting anxiety, and it's just, and so, that's something I worked on and everything, but this fear of abandonment, I think, is at the core of the first chakra. And if you have experienced a situation where you haven't felt safety, over and over, then you're going to doubt the loyalty and the reliability of people to help you. And that's basically the situation I've been in for 50 years and that's why I so treasure your friendship, Andrew, is because you're the first person, you're the first male I've really encountered in a very long time, first person actually, besides Rose, who I feel isn't using me for their own to further their own agenda. I understand that you're like a you're self-confident, you're self-fulfilled enough that you don't have to use my light to illuminate your darkness. You can do that yourself. Where basically for the last 50 years, it seems, everybody has been using my light to get themselves out of their own darkness.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's an evolution in your perception too, right? This wouldn't be coming in if you didn't have it you weren't a match to it in some way. Does that
right?
So yeah, it's yes and right. It's both, and so this is the co-creation that has resulted from our mutual growth in this direction. That's the way I see it.
Right.
And yeah, it's cool. And like, there's pretty legit neuroscience. I don't really care about science, but for those who do, like, I follow this woman on Instagram, Am on the Brain, and she posts things like this all the time about, how the brain is wired to perceive reality, and, maybe, so science can be helpful from that perspective. If it gives you permission to have a certain experience or understand that there's an innate nature to what we're talking about. Like, this isn't woo-woo. I mean, it's how reality renders.
It's how the brain works too.
Right. So this idea of what you look for is what you'll see is backed by all the neuroscience that exists. And so then why wouldn't you use that as a tool to enhance the way your experience here on Earth? To me, that's the point, and is to bring master consciousness.
Right.
That's what it feels like. And And mastering consciousness doesn't mean you have it all figured out. It means that you're better than you were the day before or the last Dale, right? This is a new you, and it is experiencing this reality in a way that is the best you know how currently. How about that?
Absolutely, and the thing is that this is where like a little offshoot, but basically I was just thinking about this in terms of mental illness and neuroscience, and when I first got sick, they basically said my brain's broken and there's nothing I can do, and neuroscience has proved that to be total myth and false because the brain. They used to think the brain stopped stopped evolving at age 21, and now they found it's always evolving. So, I just in terms of mental illness, you know, everything that I've gone through is because I have a unique brain chemistry, and I've taken medication for it and everything, and I am very grateful for the medication. I think it's helped a lot. But I think, my experience with parents and with people dealing with mental illness is that their lack of understanding is not only the result of their own blindness, but it's also a lack of understanding that basically they've chosen this reality to live in.
Yeah.
And they, and the thing, what I think is happening, the reason there's so many young people, like, this is my own theory, but the reason there's so many, like, young people, like, having schizophrenic and mental illness, psychotic attacks is because that children today refuse to be ruled by the paradigms of the past. And when
Hello, Moto.
Rookie, come on, bro.
Sorry. But anyway, so there's a rage within children, within young people today, not only against the past, but also against the way everybody has tried to manipulate their thinking, which they know is false, and that's just causing them rage against what they're being programmed into, which leads to mental illness.
Okay. That's a pretty good story. I mean, anytime you're conforming to a reality that you don't accept, you're gonna express that it's gonna come out in different ways.
Right.
Right? And so yeah, that conformity from a place of like deep frustration is gonna come out weird. Hello? What the fuck are we doing?
Right.
How can we not realize that? So it's like, to me, that's a story too, because the other story I see is parents of this generation actually bringing a greater level of awareness to their parenting. Are they perfect? Right. Maybe not, but there's both. It's yes and it's both. And so there are still parents very much ingrained in doing that, and seeing the frustration. And then there's parents that seem to be accepting the nature of reality and perceiving themselves as more of a guide for this consciousness.
And that everybody has their own brain and their own way of perceiving.
Right. And maybe just allowing more experience instead of no, right. Don't dream like that. Don't dream like that. Don't dream like that. That's icky.
Well, I noticed that with me, and this just made me think about being a father, was when Willow was off leash and she sort of ran away, and you were very mellow, and I when she ran away, I just sort of it blurted out no, and then I said, what the fuck? It's not my dog, and and why am I telling Willow no in the first place? Because Willow doesn't deserve a no. She's just being a dog. So, but and that just made me think about myself as a future father, and a lot of people say I say no a lot. So that's something that I'm working on. But
well, I was around a 2.5-year-old for 10 days, 11 days, something like that, on and off, and yeah, sometimes we told him no.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want. No, thank you. I don't actually want to be hit. No, I sure don't. No, thank you. And he would say yes, thank you. And eventually, if he persists, then the barrier, the boundary has to be communicated in more assertive ways. I don't know.
right.
To me, that felt right. I don't know. I'm not a parent.
Well,
I don't attempt. I don't. I don't even know how I would parent, but the way she was parenting felt true-ish.
So I just as a suggestion, I was watching this one of my YouTubers, and she's a mother, and I think she's a mother of 3, and she's been into mysticism for 20 years and stuff. But she said, when one of my children does something that I don't like, or I think is a mistake, I simply ask him, "Do you think that was a good idea?"
Yeah. Right.
And it, and that's non-confrontational and makes the kid think, well, maybe that wasn't a good idea. I mean, she gave the example of, sort of there's a puddle of water on the floor, and the kid doesn't clean up the water. And this actually happened to me when I was 5 years old. Didn't clean up the water and kept running across the water and slipping and falling completely on my back and my head, And this happened 3 times until I said, "Fuck it, I'm going to clean up the water." But that's sort of the scenario, that she was saying, instead of saying, why didn't you clean it up in the first place? Just say, do you think that was a good idea not to clean up the water?
Yeah.
And the kid has learned his lesson, so he knows what to do.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it's taking judgment out of the equation effectively.
Right.
And yeah, that's your experience. Do you want to keep having that experience? Okay, cool. Eventually, you're probably gonna start crying. Because that's part how kids learn too, right? They escalate until someone cries, and then they come running to mom he's man, and you're just yeah, you guys were testing the boundaries. And sometimes that feels uncomfortable, but we do test the boundaries. That's part of learning how to dream, is to find where the edges are, right? And so that is part of the child's responsibility, and they're also going to test your boundaries because that's what they're here to. That's what they want to do. And so the responsibility of a parent, it's a lie. It feels.
Well, I can't tell you how many parents I've said. I've heard say, my kids are my greatest teachers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they're a mirror because they're super open. Davis will just say what is true with no thought of good or bad. For example, he was hitting Willow. And the first time I was like, no, we don't do that, buddy. And the second time I was like, bro, we've talked about this. And then the third time I was like, I actually put my hand on his chest enough to where he couldn't reach. And he felt that little bit of, oh, this boundary is real. And it kind of scared him, right? Andrew is serious.
Right.
And of course he went to his mom because it was scary to feel that from me for pretty much the first time. But it was also a boundary that I was watching this innocent dog get hit by a kid, right? And I'm like, bro, and then his mom explained it perfectly. It's Andrew is responsible for keeping Willow safe, just like I am responsible for keeping you safe. And that that made sense to him. But he literally walked in the kitchen and was like, he hit the dog, and he refers to himself in the third person. So he says he hit the dog, and she's like, oh, well, why did he hit the dog, right? But that's how honest he was. It didn't feel like he needed to hide that from his mom yet, and I think that's such a beautiful stage to be still in that innocence of I can just express what is true, and then it will be dealt with in a way that allows me to continue to do that, right? So that felt like the good shit. That moment definitely has stuck out for me is like, okay, we communicated a boundary, but we also expressed, what was true and in a safe way. And
also suggestions rather than commands.
Right. And I get it. Sometimes you're just at your wit's end. It's been a long day, and you're like, bro, I can't. But
or if there is an immediate danger, sometimes you really have to.
Well, right. I'm not, like I said, I'm not judging any parenting or any parenting skills. I'm just encouraging us to take these opportunities to teach in a way that feels true to this reality, the truth of love, and that God is love, and that we get to extend that into the world through our creation, and one of those creations is children. So.
And that gets back to what I was saying about mental illness, is that, I think a lot of caregivers get so caught up in their frustration, and to tell you the truth, I was thinking about this today. Basically, when someone gets mental illness, not only are they a different person, they're basically from a different planet, and you have to absolutely learn how to communicate with them again. And I had an analogy, but basically I can't remember it.
Well, I would say one thing. It's an opportunity. We never have to do shit.
Right.
We don't have to do shit. That's called free will. But it does these challenges that we bring in. I mean, that's what you referred to earlier, right? And I think this is a way to structure reality to make you the creator. That's really the essence of it. And so when I'm saying these corrective things, that's the point. Is okay. It's not. I don't have to do something. I have an opportunity to do something because of the situation I created. And when you can take responsibility from that lens, it allows you to change the way you experience reality. And if you desire to change the way you perceive reality, this is a structure that works. I mean, there are other structures, I'm sure, but it's Christ. I mean, it's the example Yeshua set for us. That's the essence of it.
And just to put in my 2 cents about that, worship the kingdom, not the person.
Right.
That's really has been the liberating spiritual truth. I'm not going to say Christian. I'm going to say spiritual truth I gleaned from the New Testament, and I have read the Bible through 3 times. So, but basically, that's the message I glean from the New Testament: is be in the kingdom and use Jesus. Jesus is the kingdom, is the king of the kingdom, but let him be an inspiration for your own action and behavior, rather than trying to be him and show that you are him.
Yeah. And I'm going to keep encouraging us to use Yeshua, because
Yeshua, okay.
I just don't know why.
Well,
I don't understand why.
Actually, I think we agreed that we're going to say Christ.
Oh, yes, we did. Yes. But I mean, Yeshua was the human who seems to have most incarnated that Christ did essence.
Right.
How about that?
Well, he did.
Yeah.
But
okay.
And then that's why we can refer to him as the Christ.
Right. Correct.
But
the
ultimately,
Christ.
everybody is the Christ.
Correct.
And the fact is that Yeshua went through the full gauntlet of what humanity can suffer so that that's no longer necessary. And that was the truth until Nietzsche and Fred came along and said God is dead. And for the last 125 years, we've been I've been at war with the warlord Fred, who it took thousands of eternities to get back into human form in the first place, so that he could be mortal. And now the warlord is dead, and that's a good thing. But without Fred, there's no need for worry. As I said, no Fred, no fret, no threat.
Yeah.
So just bear that in mind. And with that, I'll read a random poem from Entering New Age of Dew. And this is from the 49th day of Dew, which was 7/2/18. So it goes like this. An aftermath of a dream. I was enrolled in a school for sages, with students of all sex and ages, where we were taught not to feel any guilt, upon which damnation is in fact built. Instructed in art of meditation, we were constantly seeking deep insight, wanting to achieve illumination, hoping to discover our inner light, while every one of teachers was saint, educated about all holy books, imposing discipline through mere stern looks. As views of eternity they did paint, so I was disappointed when I awoke that I could not wear a wise man's cloak.
Okay, give me the short explanation.
This is a dream of being basically in a school of higher knowledge, and this is what you and I are trying to build, a tribe, a soul tribe, and the dream is of being surrounded by high awareness and basically mentor, like spiritual leaders who are true spiritual leaders and not just egoic maniacs.
Maniacs. Okay, good. I like that dream. I feel, that coming in different ways, and so it is.
And we haven't had our. I think it's a good time to close with Sid. So Sydney Banks.
He's one of our favorites here on the show.
Yeah. Scottish welder with a vision from God, creating the triad of mind, thought, and consciousness. And this is his book, The Missing Link, which is basically, I would recommend to everybody, but we're just starting where we left off, and it goes, mental health lies within the consciousness of all human beings, but it is shrouded and held prisoner by our own erroneous thoughts, which is exactly what we've been talking about.
Literally what we're talking about.
Yeah. This is why we must look past our contaminated thoughts to find the purity and wisdom that lies inside our own consciousness. When the wise tell us to look within, they are directing us beyond intellectual analysis of personal thoughts to a higher order of knowledge called wisdom.
So there we go. That's how the prison is collapsed, is through wisdom.
Yeah, and I think that about sums it up for today.
Yeah, we just nailed hard, bro.
So everybody just remember, Dale to Dale, rise and smile, and I hope you remember to subscribe. We're desperate for comments.
We're not desperate for shit, bro. We would appreciate your engagement to the extent you feel called to do so.
Right. And we'd love to see what your comments are.
Obviously, yes. We love you guys so much.
Okay, well, everybody have a great week, and this is the first month of the new year of the new age ends on November 2nd. So then we're moving into I think duck month. So we'll let you know. Have a great one.